Myowa.
Myowa, how old are you?
I am 32.
32.
I'm a business owner of 7 years. I'm a lash instructor.
And the reason I popped it is I don't like heavy eyelashes.
Hey, you look like a black Barbie doll.
The only reason why I popped is just I didn't feel the physical connection initially.
Hey, welcome. What's your name?
My name's Alberto Devine.
What is that?
For myself, I paint.
Okay, you paint. You're an artist?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, very cool.
I
And now, what do you look for in a woman?
Just loyalty.
Okay.
My ex said that a lot.
You quiet.
I'm always quiet.
He's cute, but I'm just not really my type.
Dating shows like Pop the Balloon, they exploit the shallowness of dating and what it means to really find love. The show glorifies superficial things that doesn't really last in a long-term relationship like a marriage. Single men and women, they pop the balloon as soon as they see or hear something that doesn't fit their preference of what a potential spouse or what the perfect spouse in their mind should be. But we all have our idea of what our perfect spouse might be like, even us as Christians. We want someone that's kind, that loves God, that's financially stable, has a great sense of humor. The list goes on. Here's the thing. The quest for this perfect spouse might actually be doing you more harm than good. So stick around as we explore why there's dangers in actually trying to pursue the perfect spouse. And at the end, we have a clip from Pastor Tim Keller that really drives home this point.
All right. So, point number 1. None of us are perfect. And I know that you're hearing it and you're like, yeah, I know that. None of us are perfect. But as we're talking about today, do we actually date with that mindset? Are we actually in friendships, in relationships with the mindset and with the knowledge and understanding that no one is perfect? If we look at scripture, that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start with Romans chapter 3, verse 23. And it says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." Keyword, all, everyone. And I've heard people say, man, only Jesus can can fit into that list, because we're looking for perfection. But is perfection really the goal? When we know scriptures like this, when we are aware that we all have flaws, we all have areas that, where we fall short, in areas where we need to grow. It makes me think about, I'm an educator. Me and my husband were both in the education field. And when it comes time to do progress reports, we do glows and grows, right? The glow is how the scholar is excelling. And, yes, there are places where we all excel. There are places where God has perfected us, right? Or is perfecting us. But there's also the grows, the places where we need to grow. There's a balance. We all have both. And so if you're looking for all glows, and that's all you're looking for, and you may get that, right? For a season, you may get that in the dating time. But as time goes on, there will be grows. There will be the true nature of that person, because we all know at the end of the day, we have a sin nature. When we expect perfection from our potential spouse, we are literally setting up our relationship, our courtship, and our marriage for failure, because there is no perfect person. We're frustrated because this person is not meeting my make-believe list, right? This person isn't becoming who I want them to be. We leave God out of it. We may have him in an inch of it, even with our list. At the end, we may say integrity, but the whole rest of the list was just off the wall stuff. And you got to think of it like this. When we're focused on, oh, I'm just looking for the right spouse, I'm looking for this perfect person, I'm looking for my soulmate, you will miss out on so many different people who God was perfecting at that time, or who God wanted to use in a certain way in your life at that time. Amazing people are continuously looked over, are continuously erased and removed because of the season that you find them in. The crazy thing is, seasons come and seasons go. We all evolve, we all change, and we don't even give people a chance to do that, right? Or we have a fear that they would do that, when it's nothing wrong with the evolution of a person. It's nothing wrong with the seasons changing, because if they didn't, everything would die. If there wasn't a change in seasons, plants, the world as it is would not be sustainable anymore if we did not have winter, fall, spring, summer, and each of those seasons bring out something beautiful on the earth. And it is the same in people, right? And yeah, winter may not be beautiful to some people, but it's beautiful to somebody. So remember, in courtship and marriage and dating, whatever stage you are in, the goal is to progress forward. The goal is not perfection.
Point number 2, ditch your unrealistic expectations. Imagine you sign up for one of these shows like Pop the Balloon, looking to find your potential spouse, right? But you go into that show or you go into that space with a checklist of all the things that you want your future spouse to have. Like they got to be funny, they got to be smart, they got to be creative, they have to be tall, they have to have curly hair. All these things are just setting yourself up for failure. But then at the same time, think about the other person. How do you think that makes the other person feel? That's putting a lot of pressure on that other person. These things are preferences, but they're not necessarily based on anything within the Bible. That's not to say that you shouldn't have standards, but at the same time, you have to realize that what are these standards based on? If they're tall, dark skin, light skin, fair skin, curly hair, straight hair, all these things aren't giving me the character of that person. Think about in Samuel when the children of Israel, they wanted a king to rule over them. Who did they pick? They didn't pick the one that Samuel wanted to choose, but they chose the one that they thought would be king, which is King Saul. King Saul was everything that they wanted. He was great looking. He was tall. He was handsome. He could speak well. His heart was after the things that he desired and not after God. But we, as believers, we should be what's called fruit inspectors. What does that mean? We inspect the character of that person based off of Galatians 5:22. It talks about spirit of joy, love, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, meekness, self-control. All these things are characteristics that we should also be looking and expecting on the person that we want to potentially choose as a spouse. But then you got to think about it. Marriage is not for our benefit. Marriage is actually for our sanctification. Why? Because when we say that we love someone, we aren't loving them as the world does. We're loving them as Christ loved us. And what kind of love did he show? Well, what is love according to the scriptures? In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4-7, when was the last time you kept the record of wrong when someone did something wrong against you? The goal isn't to find someone that is perfect, but no, the goal is to strive and to grow with someone that you can both be submitted to Christ to, and that he's both perfecting and sanctifying you, because your future spouse is a physical representation of your spiritual connection with God. How do I say that? Because you can only love your spouse to the degree in which you love God. And later on, Tim Keller is going to talk about this very same point and why this is so important and why a lot of Christian singles, they don't understand this. It's not about looking for imperfections that we can point out and magnify with a magnifying glass. No, it's about grace. It's about forgiveness. It's about keeping no record of wrong. All those things in 1 Corinthians 13. Are we reflecting those things? Do we?
The Bible, the Christian teaching is that all human beings are selfish and sinful. We all want to be our own little gods. That's the biblical view. And therefore, if you are informed by the Christian view of marriage, when you get into marriage, you're not going to be shocked. One of the biggest reasons why you have, the Kim Kardashian thing happen is because people are shocked they haven't been actually prepared. And they think because they've been told that if you have the perfect soulmate, these clashes shouldn't happen. The fact of the matter is you're brought into marriage and you knock the rough edges off of each other, just like two gems put into a gem tumbler knock the rough edges off of each other, because they're moved around and they polish each other. But there's a clash, there's a constructive clash. So the first thing is you embrace that. In fact, you talk about it before you get married. You say, this is one of our missions in life, and that is to help each other grow into people that we would never grow into if we weren't married to each other. That's one of your purposes.
Okay, so point number 3. You attract who you are. As we're searching and believing the Lord for marriage, We need to make sure that we are becoming the one, that we are becoming the very one that we are looking for. Your spouse is going to change physically. How they look in their 20s or their 30s is not going to be how they look in their 60s or their 70s. We change, things happen. Two people, I know there's a young lady, she had an accident, she was completely disfigured, but her husband has loved her through it. Like we have to think beyond the superficial. We have to think beyond this realm, because anything can happen, and love has to be deeper than a six pack. Love has to be deeper than long hair or light skin or anything that will fade away. Love has to be deeper. Character is something you have to work for. Character is something you persevere and endure through. But genetics, that's given. Like, you're looking at they didn't have to work for that. That cute smile, that dimple, you ain't got to work for no dimples. I mean, it's people who go out here and buy them now, but like, it's not sustainable. It's not going to be the very thing that teaches your children, that trains up your children. The things that we look at, the six pack, the muscles, the woman's body, or how she's shaped or built, these things, that's not going to matter on my deathbed, right? When I need prayer, okay? When I'm sick and I'm going through it, what matters is this is a person of prayer? Is this a person of worship? Is this a person that loves the Lord? Ephesians chapter 5, and I'm starting at like verse 25. It says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. Here is the thing, though. Christ did the work, because it says that he may sanctify. The bride doesn't sanctify herself. He does the work. He's willing to put in the work. He's showing us what it looks like to endure, to work, to believe, to pour out. I remember somebody pointed this out. Jesus went through everything he went through on that cross, to the point where someone was saying recently, I know most of us may have seen Passion of the Christ, and you probably cried, and that just seemed horrible. That's not even to the T of what Jesus really went through, right? He went through all of that for a maybe. He went through all of that pain, that torture. He became sin. The one who knew no sin. He didn't know sin. He became sin. He died brutally, tragically, for a maybe. Maybe she will love me. Maybe he will love me. That's the kind of love that we need to have and be building up in us. If we're talking about want to be married, that's the kind of love you need, because your spouse ain't always going to be on the yes side, where it feels like they always for you. But are you willing to ride out like he did for a maybe? Maybe he'll begin to love me the way I want him to. Or are we stuck in, no, he better love me, or she better? Jesus ain't even say that. Jesus went on the cross and said, you better. I'm going to do this so that maybe you will now have the choice. He gave us the choice to love him. Become the one. Be like Christ. And as you are doing that, the way that you choose, the way that you move in the arena of dating will switch. It will be like a...
Check out this clip from Tim Keller and how he almost seemingly predicts how dating is in 2024 with shows like Pop the Balloon.
Of marriage, it's really true that no two people are compatible. You're always incompatible. You need to embrace that incompatibility. You expect the conflict. Secondly, you fall in love not just with a person who's perfect now, but a person that you see the person becoming. Great raw material, etc. You expect there to be changes. But lastly, you should be looking for somebody who is or could be your best friend. See, if that's the purpose of marriage, deep character change through deep friendship, then you're looking for somebody who could be your most trusted counselor and your best friend, even if the person isn't yet. So here's what really happens is, you're a single person, you walk in a room with other singles, let's say there's 10 other people there. You immediately, by looking at them, eliminate 7. You know you do. It's all on the basis of looks and polish. And then you go to the three that you think, oh, there could be some chemistry here. And then, probably your best candidate for somebody who could be a lifelong friend partner, you just eliminated it, didn't make your first cut. You should be looking for somebody who can be your best partner, and I guess your best friend. And maybe I should just end this point saying this. Somebody's going to say, so you're just saying sexual chemistry and attraction means nothing? Oh, no, I'm not saying that at all. But I want you to think of it this. Friendship does not flow out of great sexual chemistry. Sexual chemistry grows out of terrific friendship. You know why? There's nothing more sexy than knowing that somebody you admire to the skies admires you. The praise of the praiseworthy is above all rewards. So when somebody that you admire to the sky thinks you're incredible, there's nothing more powerfully sexy than that. So do the friendship, and the sexual chemistry, a lasting sexual chemistry, will be there. So the sexual chemistry flows out of the friendship, not the friendship out of the sexual chemistry. Listen, when I first kissed my wife, and I don't mean as my wife, I mean the very first time I went out with Kathy, we spent some time together before we were married, and I kissed her. What electricity. Now, somebody's going to say, do you get that same electricity now when you kiss her, 35, 37 years later, that you did then? I said, no, of course not. I said, isn't that a shame? I said, no. When I look back, I know the incredible thrill I got the first time I held her hand and she squeezed it back, the first time I kissed her and she kissed me back. It was ego. I wasn't loving her. I had no idea who she was, really. I was in love with the idea this girl likes me. In other words, she likes me. It seems like sexual love. It's really ego. It's a rush. It's a rush to your head. I would never, ever want to go back to the shallowness of the feeling I had the first time I kissed her. I would never give that up. The difference between kissing her then and kissing her now is the difference between a deep river that makes no noise, that's now, and a babbling brook that made a lot of noise, but it was like 1 inch deep.
So if you feel like you're in a situation where it's hard for you to choose, or even to know what your future spouse is like, or how to become your future spouse, check out this video where we go over the Christian basics and how we should all be dealing with the fundamentals and how you can grow in your faith by just knowing the fundamentals of the faith.